Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Teach It Forward webinar session, Getting Online with Gradient. My name is Katie Selstrom. I work with GradeCam. I'm a customer success coach, and I'm joined by my colleague, Kate. We're joining you from a conference today, actually, so we're wearing matching orange shirts. And then we have our three amazing panelists that we'll introduce in just a moment. Our session is being recorded today, and you do have access to our slides and all of the amazing things our panelists are about to present. There's a bit.ly link right in the bottom left corner of our screen, so go ahead and grab that, and you'll have access to our slides as we go. So the session format that we have for today's 30-minute session, or that we're going to hear from each panelist and their story of getting online with their students with Gradient. All of our participants today are teaching and using Gradient in their classrooms. So they're going to tell us a little bit about the goals they had for initially getting GradeCam back in the day, whenever that was, and how it's sort of evolved, what they've tried out, and what's been successful for their students, for their colleagues in their classrooms, and any lessons learned, so that if there's anything that they've learned that could really help you out as you're using GradeCam, you'll get to hear those tips and tricks. As we go, Kate is monitoring the chat, so feel free to chat any of your questions. We're going to let all three panelists present, and then at the very end, open it up to questions. So we will try to answer your chat questions via chat, but also mention some of those along the way at the end. So we're going to jump in and get started with LaShawn. LaShawn joins us from Huntington Middle School in Georgia. She's an 8th grade gifted science teacher, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her story. LaShawn, are you okay with me driving your slides?
Sure, yes, please do.
Okay, awesome. All right, it's all you.
Okay, so as she has introduced me, I am LaShawn Ferguson. I am in my 19th year of teaching, always in middle school, currently at a Title I middle school, gifted science, and as well as I do teach regular ed science. I am science department chair. So, you know, my involvement in curriculum is very involved, very big. We can move on. So when I first arrived at Huntington Middle School, there was not an efficient way to grade student papers and share data or look at providing students with timely feedback. So that was one of the things I noticed right offhand. At my previous school, we used GradeCam. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't shared this with the ladies, but I was not, I'm sorry, I'm still at school, y'all. So I was not, for a while I had used another.
Imani Carter, please report to the front office. Imani Carter, please report to the front office.
My apologies. So for some years, I had used another online grading platform that I was really committed to, begins with a Z, ends with an E. I won't call the name. So, you know, all of my assessments, my activities, everything was in this one place. So initially, I had some pushback about using GradeCam. But once I made the transition, I was in love. Like, it's the best thing going, right? So my prior experience at my last school, and I've only been at Huntington for 1 year. So when I got here, I was like, oh my goodness, we're still using the old Scantron machine. And there was just one machine in the teacher's workroom. So that was just an inefficient way of grading papers. And definitely I couldn't understand how were we, because now I'm a part of the Huntington family, how are we actually, you know, going through the data? How is that made possible also, again, in a timely and an efficient way? So that there was a limitation to that, analyzing and sharing the data. And then again, just the inability to provide students with the opportune feedback that they needed. So our goal, once I shared, hey, this was my experience at my last school. I shared it with my admin. I, subscribed to the free teacher version, and I was able to show them firsthand what those major features were, what the key points were. So improving school-wide access to the grading tool, that was a biggie. That was major for us. And then of course, making those data-driven decisions within our PLC. So every grade level meets once a week, some, definitely multiple times throughout the week, but officially meet once a week. And then on Thursday, so for science, it's Tuesday, and on Thursday, we have data day. So it was really important to have the data available, have it available in an easy to understand format. And again, providing students with the feedback that they needed, timely feedback. So those were some of our goals in purchasing Gradients. So part of our plan, our success team definitely included my principal in administration, and they have been so supportive, so willing to explore new opportunities. So Gradient was definitely one of those things that they were on board with right away. My science PLC 8th grade. And of course, Miss Busy Core, she is absolutely amazing. Even when I was at my last school, and I want to say at my last school, I used GradeCam, I want to say for at least 2 to 3 years. So even then, her and I established a relationship. So when I got here in Huntington, I just went in my inbox, in my sent file, and just looked for that last email I sent her. And she knew like, okay, not a problem. So she has been really amazing. So in part of our plan was preparation. Like I said, prior experience, being able to download the free trial, the teacher version, before actually getting access to the full array of items that are available in the platform. Again, showing administration the benefits, including accessibility, data analysis, the other major forms, especially the transfer feature. GradeCam, it talks to our infinite campus system. So that was a major, like a deal breaker. And then of course, the bottom line, cost effectiveness. They definitely wanted to know, okay, so what is this gonna cost us? And I want to say what I get, what our staff, what we get for GradeCam, it's really underpriced. What we get is so much. It's so much. Implementation was pretty easy. So within our PLC, each of the other teachers were able to also download the free teacher version. Now, the only limitation to that was not being able to share the data online with each other. That was the only limitation. I'm sorry. That was the only limitation, not being able to communicate as far as the data and share the assessments. So that was the only thing. But just to be able to provide the students with the feedback that they needed through the trial version, that was great to get started. So once we got our purchase order went through, then the ball was officially rolling. That kind of happened in October. So in October, during a PL day, professional learning day, I was able to train the entire staff on, navigating the platform and really focusing in on sharing assessments and using those data analysis tools. Again, I can't say enough about technical support. Those pre-7 a.m. phone calls or email messages. Busy she has been really, really patient with us here at Huntington. Since implementation, we've made really great strides. So school-wide, I kind of went back and pulled. Now, I do have administrative privileges for the platform, so I'm able to see, which teachers are using it, how frequently, and all those details. So progress-wise, we've had about 9,400 students to turn in assignments using the platform, and this is since October. The students love it. Even like today, another teacher and I, we share a cart of laptops. And so I had to give the cart back. And then there's plan B, just print the forms out, right? But they're so used to just getting online and submitting their answers. But they love it. They love it for the fact that there's a quick grade turnaround. And then they have the ability to right then and there make their corrections. So that has been, that has been such a time saver. Teachers love it, obviously, for accessibility. They can, use their document camera to scan student responses, use their cell phones, have students, again, go online. So they love the accessibility of it. They can work, obviously, from school or from home. The timely feedback, easy, understood data formats. So that has been one of the key feedback features that teachers are talking about. Standards alignment and the grade transfer. Grade transfer, oh my goodness, that has been time saving. So here you'll see some of the samples of assessments and different activities that I've been able to use GradeCam for. So this was a lab activity that my students completed. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to provide a quick, easy way to check for understanding. So this is a post-lab inventory. I want to say there were 15 questions based on what the students did in the lab. So they were really successful with this. Next. This is another activity. This was a daily grade for my students. Again, just a quick way I wanted to check for understanding. And I call it a gallery walk. And literally they're up out of their seats. There are little task cards around the room. And they every 45 to 60 seconds, they would change stations, go to the next task card, recorded their answers in the table, and then they transferred those answers onto the GradeCam form. Okay, this next slide, this is an actual common formative assessment. So within our PLC, this is something that we created. This, I show one of our standards here in Georgia. And this item was, I want to say this was 20 items. So there were 20 items on this standard. So what I love about, again, the data formatting, it's so easy to understand. So within whole group, my students and myself were able to actually analyze the data together. And then I create for my students as well a reflection sheet where they get to mark the questions that they missed. Mark the questions that they got correct. And then they actually have to calculate based on a particular element of the standard, their proficiency level. So proficiency for them is 80%. And then the students, they give their own self-assessment. Am I proficient? Do I need a bit more practice? Ms. Ferguson, I really need help. So it's a menu checklist. They get to choose how do they want that help? How do they want that practice? So I love it because, again, like I said, not only is it quick, timely grade turnaround for the student, but it gives them a chance to make corrections, reflect. And then what you don't see is there's another component to the student reflection where they actually have to answer a list of questions that ask, for example, how did you prepare for the assessment? What could you have done differently while in the classroom? And then they have to come up with an action plan. So if given the opportunity to reassess on this particular element of the standard, what are your goals? What do you plan to do differently the next time? So again, all of that is made possible by what GradeCam is able to offer. Okay, so teaching it forward, the lessons learned. Be creative, okay? We already have like an enormous toolbox of resources and, just so much already. So the thing is to strategize. Always begin with the end in mind. If you have an activity, how do you want that assessment to look, and how do you want to collect student responses? So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to work smarter, not harder, right? So the items, the activities, the assessments, whatever it is that you have already, you want to think, how can I best maximize GradeCam to collect the student responses so that I'm able to authentically check for student understanding? So I'm constantly, even now, and my husband, he's always saying to me, why are you still working on that? Don't you have that already from last year? But I'm like, no, it's not grade camerized yet. Like, I got to grade camerize it first, So I'm always pulling activities to see how can I convert these responses such that I can get it on that form in GradeCam and get students to turn in their responses. Tip number 2, we want to empower our students. GradeCam is not just for the teacher, but it's for the students. So we want to empower them. We want them to be able to engage in their own learning process. We want them to be able to use the data, learn to analyze the data, right? And figure out, reflect, set those goals and figure out, okay, I know 80% is the proficiency level. That's like the threshold. But how can I improve on that? How can I get a much better score than 80%? So we definitely want to empower our students. And then last but not least, tip number 3 is within our learning community. So, the buzz term right now is professional learning communities. Excellent tool. GradeCam is an excellent tool to start those honest conversations, constructive dialogue about what works and what does not work, right? So a lot of times teachers, we can be shy, right, about how did our kids do on that assessment? How did they do on that activity? But I want to say GradeCam, it provides a safe environment for that, right? It provides a safe environment to have those hard discussions, to figure out, okay, my kids didn't do so well on this item. Let's kind of break it down. Let's figure out why. So it's really instrumental in having those type of discussions and then continuously improving upon assessments. Now, one of the things, my kids have been so trained in analyzing the data. Like literally before they even look at the numbers, they're looking at the color coding. So they're looking to see, those bars, like this bar represents, yeah, we got it right. But this bar, that definitely is wrong. So they're looking to see, did I make a mistake in the answer key? And so they'll look up there and then they'll go back and they'll look at their assessment item and they're like, okay, either you made a mistake or either we all just totally bombed that question. And then lastly, collectively creating an action plan that's geared towards improving student success. GradeCam, it makes that possible. Just the easy access to the data, analyzing the data and figuring out what is the next best plan for our students.
Wow, so many things. I had like little sound bites I wanted to capture from you the whole time, LaShannon. So many great ideas.
And I
Oh.
tried not to talk as fast, so I know we're
You did
limited
great.
for time.
You did great. So many good ideas. And I love that you've been using GradeCam for quite a while. So you've been able to be creative and find different ways to get the data that you need authentically. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to pass it over to, I think, Rebecca. And Rebecca, also a science teacher. I'm so proud of our science GradeCam users. It's awesome. So Rebecca's coming to us from Ohio. She works at Columbian High School, and she's going to tell us a little bit different story, but still a little bit about GradeCam and what kind of goals she has for it. So go ahead, Rebecca.
All right. Well, just a little bit about me. Again, I'm in my 7th year of teaching. It's all been at the high school level, and it's all been science. We started using GradeCam at our district just at the high school level, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I want to say the first year of the pandemic was the first year with GradeCam. Again, it was one of those things. We got a new principal. He came in and presented this idea to us and told us, hey, I'm getting you guys this, and it's going to be amazing. And we're going to throw away the Scantron machine. And I think everyone had a mild heart attack because nobody knew what GradeCam was. And we were all pretty confused until we had someone come in and provide some training. But again, the goals in transitioning from that Scantron to GradeCam was just the data analysis, being able to go beyond just item analysis, because that's all you get from Scantron. And how many times do you make a mistake on the answer key in Scantron and you don't catch it until after, and you gotta scan them all again, right? That's such a nightmare. So that's one of the things I love with GradeCam. When you change the answer key, it regrades everything automatically. It's amazing. So catching mistakes was easier. It's just individualized feedback that we can provide the students. And just, again, look at the data different ways. So with this slide, if you go back for me. Thanks. With this one, I teach physics and biology currently. So I use this, this setup with the student portal. I'm a huge student portal person. I try to avoid printing the forms. I'm trying to save paper and having the kids log in. We're a one-to-one school, so all the kids have their own Chromebooks. So that makes life really, really easy. Before that, I used laminated generic forms where the kids had those. I used the interactive notebooks, so the kids would keep those tucked in there. But now that we use the student portal, some of the features that I utilize is the time limits, especially if I've got students out for extended periods of time. I allow them to, complete an assessment at home, but I set that time limit on there to kind of even the playing field. And that way they don't fall too behind. They can kind of come back and kind of mesh back in with where everybody's at in class. Being able to change the review settings. In physics, I actually have 8 students, and 3 of them, English is not their first language. So that's a challenge all in of itself. Being able to attach the PDF and allow them to be able to download it and then translate it themselves is super helpful. So I don't have to individually go through and email it to those students. It's already set up from years prior. I just make sure that button is toggled on. And again, the reviewing of the assignments, I allow class time to review and look at their individual results and excuse me, as well as time allotted to ask questions. You can go ahead and go to the next one. So like I stated before, when we first started GradeCam, it was brought in by our new principal. We had, formal training from a representative, but it left us all kind of still in this like limbo space of like, okay, how do we use this? What do we do? So the forms, there was a learning curve there for sure. I know a lot of us were pretty afraid of venturing away from multiple choice questions, because we were so accustomed to the Scantron machine. So it was nice to be able to kind of explore fill in the blank initially and then some numeric answers. But again, we've grown since then. And now that we have access to the student portal, that makes a huge difference for us. And it was a very, very positive feedback after it was initially introduced. So I kind of mentioned this already. This is a tool with GradeCam that I was thrilled when they rolled this out. I love that they can't hide the timer. I love that it warns them before they start it. You know how it is when you tell the kids in person or via email, that's always like, I didn't know. Like GradeCam ensures that they know and they are aware that they have this amount of time to complete the assignment. But I've also used this in class before as well as outside of class. And again, it's usually something more formal. So some sort of assessment that, is going to go into that category in their grades. But this is a huge thing for me. I love this. Next week, I'm going to be out all week and I'm setting up an assessment during my absence where the kids can use their resources, but there's going to be a time limit. This isn't like Google every question and find it. Like they're going to be in class. The sub will monitor things. They can use their notebooks, but they have this allotted amount of time. So I'm a huge, huge advocate for this feature. One of the things in grading, I love being able to grade by question. It allows me to be consistent, especially with physics. When I'm grading, 5-step problems, I want to make sure that I'm grading everybody the same. I want to be fair. I want to be consistent. I don't like to grade a whole test at one time. You're graded by person. I like to grade by question. And so by having that feature, it also allows me to quickly provide feedback for students. So the first student you can see here, they got 1 out of 2. So they identified the anticodon, but then didn't have the amino acid piece of it. But I had just copy and paste, right? Or sample answers. Sorry, my light just shut off, so I'm a little dark now. My motion sensor. And the next student, they mentioned both pieces of the answer. But looking at that, again, I can copy and paste sample answers, or I can provide that individual feedback when I go through and grade by question. But it allows me to laser focus on what answer I am looking for. And again, provide that consistency across the board for all students, because I've got 100 kids in biology. So this is a great way for me to make sure that I'm efficient and accurate. So like I said, I'm a huge fan of the student portal. Even in class or out of class, I'm having them do their work online. I try to avoid printing forms at all costs. So with GradeCam's new features this year, the in progress feature was one of my favorites, as well as the time limit. So as you can see, the top picture there, it shows my students that have turned in this work. It's got their results and so on. When you click that in progress bar, it shows me who has that assignment open, what question they're on, what questions they've missed, and when was the recent activity, which I kind of covered that part of it up. But seeing the recent activity is awesome, because how often do you have your kids on their laptops and Susie Snowflake has been inactive on her assignment for 10 minutes. And they're like, but I'm working on it. I can see that you're inactive. It refreshes very frequently. It is up to date. I can trust that it's keeping me in the loop with students and their activity when they're online. But I also love being able to track as they're in progress. I can see 10 kids are missing question number 3. I could pull those 10 kids up and be like, hey, let's review this. Like, you guys we're missing something here. I didn't cover it good enough. So it allows me to reflect on my teaching and kind of fill in the gaps if there are some consistencies in what they're missing in terms of the questions. I also, one thing I didn't mention with the student portal, and I don't have any pictures of that, but once they're done, I have them sometimes retry assignments. So with a click of a button, I can reopen that assignment back to them. I do that a lot in physics. They get a data set and they have like 10 multiple choice questions they have to answer. It's practice for ACT science questions. And so they're very hard. And so allowing them to have multiple attempts or work together on the first round and then make corrections alone. But it just allows me to be a little bit more versatile in things, because I don't have to delete that first attempt. When I reopen it, their answers are still there and they just can make those quick adjustments and try again. So looking back on my first like year or two with GradeCam, I didn't utilize student portal soon enough. I did not utilize the various question types sooner, which I know that's our next webinar next month, is how to use the different types of questions. And I'm participating in that one, so you'll hear from me again then. But I use, I think, every single question type that GradeCam has to offer. In different ways for the different classes. And sometimes it's a printed thing and sometimes it's the student portal, depending on the question type too for assessments. But the other thing that our students and staff really appreciate is just the quick turnaround and the timely feedback. I know that my students appreciate that I can push grades back to them almost immediately. They want that affirmation right away. How did I do? And this allows for me to do that. And I was no different as a student. So I do try to get things back to them within a day or two. And they appreciate that. They like that they can log into GradeCam and see what they missed, see what the correct answers were, compare with one another, see the data, and see that consistent feedback across the board to all of them. In the future, I want to try to integrate GradeCam into Canvas. So our high school uses Canvas. I've tried it a couple of times. My kids are so comfortable with just going straight to GradeCam to complete assignments. It's going to be hard to get them to realize that now that it's in Canvas and they're linked together. So that is going to be a for sure obstacle for me, because if they complete it in Canvas, it automatically puts the grade in the grade book. If they go to gradecam.com, it doesn't automatically kick it over. And so I just have to go back and drop my grades in like normal. But it's something to explore, and I gotta get my kids in the habit of switching things up there. And I see that we've got a new lockdown feature on GradeCam as well, which I saw that the other day. I was so excited. So I haven't explored that yet. I don't even know where I gotta go, but I know that's where I'm headed, and using GradeCam more, especially with kids in and out of school constantly being able to assess at home. That way they can come back on the same page of everybody else is going to be huge for them to make sure they just don't fall behind. Hopefully that alleviates some of their stress, some of my stress. And I can have, this might eliminate forms like altogether. So I'm excited about that. I can't wait to like see it in action.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Kate and I are like silently cheering and laughing in the background about Lockdown Browser. We're so happy. We've been hearing that from teachers for so long. And it's nice to hear that you're really appreciating the updates we're making, for timers and progress buttons. So we'll pass that on to our developers. They're coding in the background and they don't always get that feedback that what they're building is really helpful. So it's nice to hear that those are features that you're really utilizing. And I think you got some props from LaShann too about some of the things you two do similarly. So check those out in chat, because she was chatting you up. And Heather, I know you're actually in the room with kids. So are you okay to talk now, or should we give you a little bit of time? We can always answer questions.
I am fine. Just
All right.
hang on.
That's okay. We got announcements. You got to laugh. This is real life, everybody. This is just how it goes. So while we're doing that, I'll just give a little intro of Heather. So Heather, another fantastic science teacher, joining us from North Carolina, though, in middle school as well. So she can tell you a little bit about her story in using Gradient. And I'm so happy that you all are being honest about like GradeCam and Gradient weren't your favorite thing to start off. Like it took a while, just like any new thing, it takes a while to adjust and see like, what can I actually get out of this? So Heather, go ahead, tell us your story, and I'll get rid of my camera.
You're fine. I am in North Carolina. I'm kind of near Raleigh, so about the middle of the state. I found out about GradeCam. We have North Carolina Middle School Conference, and there was a booth there about it. And my teammate at the time who taught math, and we both taught social studies, and I had science. We stopped at the booth. And we're like, well, our Scantron machine didn't work anymore at school, and nobody could ever find the papers to go through it, and it just became a huge frustration. So I quit using it, but I missed the ease of being able to just shoot the test through it and get the grade. And so this was super helpful looking for us, and it looked like it was easy. We're pretty techie at our school, and so anything that we could bring to the table to help teachers out seemed like a bonus. One of the things that really appealed to us about Gradient was the idea that we could grade assignments super quickly so kids can get immediate feedback on what they've done, and we could give them written feedback as well. One of the major things though in North Carolina, especially at that time, because we've been using Gradient for about 8 years, is that the North Carolina 8th grade EOG for science, which is our end of grade testing, was online. And that was the only one that was online at that time. And so as an 8th grade science teacher, it was very hard to explain to the kids that we're taking tests on paper all year long. And then at the end of the year, all of a sudden, here's a computer, that you haven't tried any of this on, but you're going to take a test online. And so for me, this was key. The math teachers really liked the print bubble sheets and then hold it up to the camera. That worked great for them. But for me and some of the social studies teachers were like, let's jump in and try putting our tests online and see what the students could do with that. Kind of our plan, if you could move forward one, thanks. Our plan right now, hold on. So now,
Gotta love those announcements.
okay, I'm back. One of the things that really popped in when we started using it is that when we came back to school and we had tried the free version for a little bit, we were taking it to our principal and our academic coaches, and some of our other grade level leaders, was the fact that Gary, who was our GradeCam guru, I need help at 7 a.m. and he is on it within about 5 minutes of getting me my answer. The fact that they were so responsive to any questions that we had, or if we have an issue or anything, that was major, especially in trying to talk teachers who are not as quick to pick up new programs and try them out. The fact that there was that help immediately was major for them. The one thing that I did do for teachers when we were showing it to them was I created kind of a fun quiz. Hold on, I'm sorry. One thing that I created was like a quick fun quiz for everybody. And what it did, I mean, it was silly, like logos and movie characters and quotes and things like that, easy geography that everybody would know. And during a staff meeting, we had everybody sit down and kind of take that quiz to see what it looked like and to look like, or see what that immediate feedback looked like and be able to see their grade. And I ended up using that exact same thing with my students, because I didn't want to just give them an assessment and say, all right, here's a computer. You've never messed with this before. Your grade is your grade. I like to walk them through things at first, which I know pretty much everybody does. So I use that same assessment that is kind of like a joke assessment with them. And just said, let's look at number 1. This is how you pull up your PDF so you can see your questions. This is how you bubble in your answers, or if you need to type in an answer, here it is. And my students found that really, really helpful. Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's dismissal. The other thing that we did, and that was super helpful for us in North Carolina, we use Power School for online grading, and that way parents and students can keep up with their grades in real time, so there's no shocks, at the end of the quarter. And we loved the fact that GradeCam talks to PowerSchool, and you hit a button and it immediately goes over into PowerSchool and the grade is there. So there's no waiting until, the next week or 2 weeks later. It's right there, and it's one less thing to type in, right? Everybody wants one less thing. So we use that, we show that to our principal, and we're like, look, this is the best thing that we have used. I was super pumped about it for the EOG online perspective. We've learned that at the beginning of every year that sometimes we need to do a quick refresher. Gary has actually popped on and done a meeting very similar to this with some of our grade levels and even with the new teachers that haven't used it before, to make sure everybody is kind of on the same wavelength with it. But I think one thing, we probably bumped to lessons learned. I wish that we had known about this program sooner. I wish. It made it so much easier for me. I love the fact that even though I change my assessments every year based on, my lessons for that week or whatever, I can still go in and look at previous year's data and compare it to new data. I'm sorry. We might almost be done. I'm not sure. But with our students and our staff and even parents, they like the fact that they can go in after they've turned in the assignment and see what questions they missed. They can look at the answer choices. And for me, it's really nice to be able to see, well, a lot of kids chose A, which is the wrong answer. So as a class, let's go back and look at why did everybody choose A rather than the correct answer. And so it really helps to, in those data conversations, to bring that as well. What else? It was something I was really going to tell you guys. Oh, the turn in button. That button, let me tell you, last year when we were online teaching, that turn in button, the kids forgot about it. And so I had to make sure that I didn't know that I could automatically turn it in. And so the wonderful people at GradeCam told me all about it last week, that they can automatically do it for us, or we can turn it in for the student. And so I'm sorry. But that turn in button, which they're showing you on the screen, you can see the little red circle there, and that you can force turn it in. Last week, for example, I had a student and she had finished everything, and I could see exactly what questions she had been on, everything. And I knew she just hadn't pressed turn in. And so this was easy. That way I didn't have to get in touch with her over the weekend and say, hey, log in, get it turned in so I can get it graded. I also use the app on my phone a lot for it. And that way, if I'm, sitting at the doctor's office waiting in for a minute, or if I'm not driving and I'm in the passenger seat and we're going down the road and I want to get something graded, by all means, let's go get it graded. And it gives me that minute so that I'm not constantly sitting in front of my computer or carrying around a stack of papers to grade. It's just the ease of use for me, to be honest. I can't say enough about this program. I left for a year and went to another school to try a different job, and I came back and they had gotten rid of it and I was fit to be tied. And so I got in touch with the office and I was like, look, they said, well, nobody was using it. And I said, that is not true. I was using it. And then once we got it back, everybody's like, oh yeah, we were using it. Why did it go away? And I was like, because I wasn't here to fuss for it. So we did get it back, and it is something that I will use wherever I go from here on out, because I just think it is that handy of a tool. And my students really do appreciate the fact that they're able to try the tests online and leading up to that end of grade test.
Thank you so much. Again, Kate and I are just in the background cheering for you all that you're able to save some time for yourselves. As we can tell in this webinar, your lives are constantly managing shifting priorities and noises and sounds and all kinds of things. you're already juggling so much. So anything we can do to, streamline things, make grading easier, give your kids feedback so that they don't have to wait around to know what they don't know and know. We're so happy that we can help with that. So we wanted to open it up to questions. Kate's been feverishly answering questions in chat. So I will see if there's any open questions left. Okay, so Kate's put some resources in the chat. I think as some of you were presenting, the different features that we have, like the timers and progress and turn in, all those links are in our chat, which will be available when you're watching the recording as well. If anybody wants to stay on, feel free, and we can stop the recording and answer any other questions, but I know some of you also have to go. So I'll pause the recording or at least stop it here. And thank you